This is an effort, a short story that I did for the College of Older Adults. And many of you are familiar with NPR's Wait, Wait, Don't Tell. True or false? Pigtail Girl. Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Snapchat, tweeting, blogging. Kind of cool for a technologically challenged 70-year-old to be getting the hang of social media. Driving north on I-81 after class, it crossed my mind that the grandkids might be slightly impressed. Thank you, College of Older Adults. Clicking on the turn signal for exit 26, I began mulling over the possibility of blogging about end-of-life issues and choices. With boomers hitting 70 and wanting to be in control to the end, there's certainly a need. My training with Compassion and Choices, Death with Dignity, and the Funeral Consumers Alliance provided sufficient information to get going. Rolling down the hill past the entrance to Emory and Henry College, my wandering mind was abruptly jolted to reality. Just beyond the railroad overpass on the left, a young girl running with reckless abandon came zipping down the grassy embankment, her blonde pigtail flying in the breeze. Oh my God, I thought, that kid's going to run right out in front of traffic. She's going to get hit. She didn't slow down, dashing in front of the oncoming car, barely missing the front bumper. Directly behind her, almost on her heels, a white Jeep Cherokee came bouncing down the grassy slope. The male driver bounced up and down in the seat as if he were riding a bucking bronco. The Jeep hit the concrete ditch, lurched across it, and came to a stop just short of the oncoming traffic. I slammed on the brakes as Pigtail Girl ran in front of the car. She threw up her arms, waving and yelling, "Please, please help me, please help me. He's trying to kill me, please help me." Her panic-stricken face said she wasn't lying. Hitting the unlock button to the car door, I motioned for her to get in. She flung the door open, smacked a Tupperware container off the front seat, threw her brown leather satchel onto the floor, and with one motion leaped onto the front seat, pulling the door shut. As it closed, she collapsed against the door. Her whole body was trembling. Pigtail Girl was not a kid, but a young woman in her early 30s. Deep lines in her face told me life had not been easy for her. "Thank you for saving me," she whimpered. He wanted to run over me. He was trying to kill me. You saved my life." "You're safe now," I said, patting her on the shoulder. "I'm taking you home with me. You'll be safe there." My mind raced. If he had a gun, he would probably be shooting at her, mentally ruling out the possibility of getting shot for helping her. At least I hoped. Stomping the accelerator, we headed for College Drive, which was just around the corner and out of sight of the crazy man trying to run her down. Glancing in the rearview mirror, no Jeep. I swung left onto College in front of traffic. If I could just get across the first knoll, we would be safe. Jeep man wouldn't be able to see my little gray Mazda, and we could get into the garage and out of sight. We topped the knoll, and as it leveled out, Pigtail Girl whispered, "Stop, please stop. I'm going to be sick." "Hang on," I said. "We're almost there. You'll be okay." "No, please stop. I'm going to be sick. I'm going to throw up," she said. Glancing in the rearview mirror, no traffic was coming, so I stopped. As the car came to a complete stop, she pushed open the door, leaned out, and dry heaved 6 or 7 times, her tiny body shaking. Still no traffic in sight, a minor miracle for this busy road. Pigtail Girl leaned back in the seat, took a deep breath, composed herself, and said, "I'm going to get out here." No, I protested. "Let me help you. I'll call the police." "I'll be all right," she said. "My mother-in-law lives right over there. I'll be fine," she said, waving her hand in the general direction of several small white houses. "Are you sure?" I asked. "Yes," she said, nodding. She gathered up her satchel, stepped out of the car, then leaned back in and said, "Thank you for stopping. You saved my life. You really did. He would have killed me." Slamming the door, she slung the floppy satchel over her shoulder and walked behind the car. I watched Pigtail Girl in the side mirror as she headed across the field toward her safe house. My heart was racing. as I started slowly easing the car forward. I followed her movement until she disappeared behind the laurel bushes. Truth or lie? You vote. It is true. Okay, Karen could not be here today, so Bunny, you're up.
This is a little vignette from a larger writing piece that's part of some memoir material that I work on from time to time. It's just a slice from a special moment in my earlier life. And for you, I hope it offers something to contemplate as you drive along Interstate 81. Beside all the trucks, and think about the advent of driverless automobiles. Our 1950 canary yellow Hudson, packed with all our earthly possessions, was headed west. It was the summer of '53, and come August, I would be celebrating my 11th birthday in California. The strike at the bus company where Dad worked had gone on long enough that he was able to convince Mom to make the move away from her family. Dad's elderly cousins, old enough that even my parents called them Aunt Minnie and Uncle Louie, awaited our arrival in Oakland, eager to help us start a new life there. I had been away at Girl Scout camp with my sister, where for the first time I swam in a pool and rode a horse. While we were gone, my parents worked day and night preparing for the move, and they were nearly ready when they retrieved us from Camp Tattapatam. Nearing midsummer, when we left our hometown of Fall River, Massachusetts, there would be much to do when we reached the Golden State. Aunt Minnie and Uncle Louie owned an apartment beside their home where we would first settle. Another cousin in San Francisco was confident he could find a job for Dad. Mom would have to move quickly to enroll Ruth and me in school. Despite some haste in getting there, Dad wanted the drive to be an adventure. We navigated through Connecticut's Merritt Parkway and the New York State Thruway before reaching New Jersey's much heralded Garden State Parkway, a model at the time for its natural surroundings. Our next major highway was the Pennsylvania Turnpike, said to be the country's first turnpike and toll road. It had been less than 15 years since the 1939 New York World's Fair, where Henry Ford's The Road of Tomorrow and General Motors' Highways and Horizons were introduced to the mass public. At the beginning of the 20th century, there were just 100 miles of paved highways. And by the 30s, horses and buggies were becoming obsolete. Ford was a business genius. He paid his workers well, believing they would buy his cars. And the World's Fair was the perfect marketing tool to convince the country it needed to completely rethink its road system. His vision led to Eisenhower's interstate highway system, which was in its infancy when my family embarked on our cross-country trip. After passing through 7 tunnels beneath mountains that now concealed abandoned railways, we left the Pennsylvania Turnpike, looking forward to traveling along the storied Route 66. My parents were acquainted with its history, how in 1926 it had become a link that cut off 200 miles of driving between Chicago and Los Angeles. Described as the Mother Road by John Steinbeck, it was later referred to as Main Street America, and by some as the Will Rogers Highway. The severe dust storms of the 30s that destroyed prairie agriculture in Oklahoma, the Texas Panhandle, and small parts of several other states brought 210,000 families to head west to California farm fields. This mass of humanity took to Route 66, driving dilapidated trucks filled with a few humble possessions. And despite being far from the arduous journey of covered wagon days, only a fraction completed the trip. Learning about the Joad family in Steinbeck's Grapes of Wrath gave me an early lesson about the class structure of our country. By the time our trusty Hudson was escorting us along Route 66, motels and motor courts, mom-and-pop restaurants, and small merchants were plentiful for overnights and traveling needs, but this was soon to change. Between 1950 and 1980, California claimed more than half the population of the West. 2 million new residents in the 60s, 3 million in the 70s. Growth of the interstates and freeways that created small-town bypasses would usher in faster driving times, bring motel and restaurant chains, and more supermarkets, which were well underway by the 50s. Local businesses that had served all those early travelers would be boarding up their buildings, and life along the roadsides of older highways would take on an abandoned, forsaken look. Small-town America would not be thriving much longer. Still, the iconic Route 66 may not yet be forgotten. Under the Antiquities Act, President Barack Obama has honored its place in our cultural history by including its longest stretch in the newly designated national monument, the Mojave Trails in California. Sadly, however, like many others under threat by our current presidential administration, this particular national monument is among 26 others under consideration to be rolled back. Okay. A little nostalgia and a little worry.
Thank you, Bunny. Now Linda will share some poetry with us.
Thanks, Bunny, for adjusting the microphone for me. And I'll take you from Bunny's era, maybe another 15, 20 years to 1974. This was my senior year in high school. This was the final year of the Vietnam War. What was going on back then? Final year of the Vietnam War. Hearings had just begun on Richard Nixon's impeachment, and it was shortly after the time of the Symbionese Liberation Army, which took resistance in a violent direction. I was 18. I mean, these made impressions on me, I guess. It did not seem like a happy world, and I think my poetry must have reflected that, or just a lot of teenage angst, more likely. The one poem, I've got about 3, and they're short. I had written for the brochure for our senior prom, and I called it Peace. Beyond the time when men shall fear no more the crashing cymbal of a hate called war, we look ahead to visions yet unseen of quiet, gentle harmony serene. Even now, within the chambers of our minds, the soft and touching note of peace we find, foretelling of the dove who, when released, shall warm our hearts with welcome news of peace. And here's one short one kind of reflecting some of my, I don't know. This was Linda Greenig. I kind of lost touch with her a few years ago, but this is what she was going through, I suppose, in 1974. Faces lost in a muddle of muted memory, fast fading glow of friendships severed by time's sharp blade. Colors of life, once familiar, now muted, drowned beneath gray drops, falling from cloudy minds, mumbled minds, jumbled feelings. And this is a little more upbeat. I call this the stream. Dark, the reflections in the stream, and distorted in appearance. No, said my mind, appearance is no more than an illusion. This world is one of gently flowing lines, a world of seeing always up. A mirror, yes, a mirror of your mind. Indeed, the sun shone brilliant in the stream, dimmed only by a spider's web of ripples in the wind. But through the nervous lines, another voice replied, look up. Your world is only half fulfilled. There's more to life than flowing lines and gentle murmurs. Life pounds your blood through every vein. It must be fought for, strained for, won. Look up. In spite, I kept my head bowed down. My mirrored world of silver sky attracted me, was safe, secure. No biting wind could threaten me. The searing rays of summer's sun were but to me a memory. I was alone. Again the voice, it beckoned me and caught me in my solitude. Look up, it said, and see a world where sunlight shines and woods are still. But enter not this world, it said, unless you seek to suffer pain and be alive. I, curious, raised my eyes to see, and soft green grasses waved to me among the leaves where burrs were hid. I reached my hand to steady me and felt a hand that grasped my own. Curious still, I looked again, up to the pine trees straight and tall, where noisy blue jays called. His hand on mine was warm to touch. He held my hand within his own and called me up to see his world. I held my eyes above the stream and, trusting him, arose to go. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Harry, we would like to hear from you, please.
You know, if you live long enough and only write things every 3 or 4 years, you eventually accumulate a few things. I write songs sometimes, and it's a good experience because I have a tune, and then the muse gets to visit and give me some words. So I thought I'd read you some of the words. This is written for children at a Halloween party. Well, Sister's costume makes her look awful scary now. Wait a minute. Big Sister's pretty scary anyhow. At least when we go trick-or-treating, she'll be on my side somehow. Drop another candy in the bag. Tommy down the street showed me his mask last night. I knew it was Tommy, but still I got an awful fright. I hope I don't run into him at dark on Halloween night. Mommy, please stay close by. But it's, oh no, something's gonna glow. Candles in the pumpkin seem to moan something we don't know. Oh sure, candy's gonna pour. Maybe I can fill another bag. Daddy says that ghosts aren't real, and if they are, they'd fly away. Sure, he's big, but I'm so little they'd probably want to stop and play. Maybe we'll get lucky and they'll scare all the big kids away. More trick-or-treats for us. There's a lady here tonight in a great big witch's hat. Maybe she's a real witch, but I don't think they get that fat. Besides, aren't all witches supposed to always have a cat? What was that ran across the room? When we cut the pumpkin up, we always make an awful mess. I like to put my hands inside and feel the slimy stuff. Oh yes. I like the way the candles glow and also the smell, I guess. Why do pumpkins have to go away? I'm only going to read you a couple of verses of this. It's got like 12, but I'm very proud of it. It's my best song, only because of the content. And it means something to me. It was written in 1998. The way it was supposed to work was when I say the word web, the audience would repeat the word back to me. So you can do that if you want. So I'm going to say, hail to the web. Hail to the web. The mighty, mighty web. Long may she rule. Here's to the hackers and their web pages, so bright and so cool. When I make a home page, I like a lot of color. I love to see the big font scroll. I've got a little wombat and a toy alligator. Let the good times roll. And nations fighting nations, trying to conquer neighbors. It's a nasty, hostile planet we live on. But the web has no borders, and the truth will set us free. Maybe someday war will be all gone. I went to high school in Caracas, Venezuela, and it was a wonderful experience. And once the internet came into existence, we started having reunions, and I wrote this song for the first reunion. So this was to my friends who I was high school age with in Caracas. Tell me, was it real, though it seems like a dream, in the valley, by the mountains, by the sea, where it was always spring and our friends were all around? Kind universe, you were good to me. When we were all so young in Caracas years ago, we could run, we could swim, we thought we'd fly. In a world filled with such magic and a future oh so bright, it seemed as if we would never die. Warm summer nights and parties by a pool, or in a home of a dear or distant friend. Latin rhythms, 50s songs, how I love the hit parade. How could we know that it would someday end? Did you climb Naiguatá? That was a mountain nearby. Did you climb Naiguatá? Did you swim in the sea? Did you dive? Did you bowl? Did you skate? It was magic, Camelot, and a world of living dreams, and the rest of life would just have to wait. Where we first fell in love, where first our hearts did break, and the boys were quick and strong, and the girls were fair, with a beauty that smolders still when I look into their eyes. Such wonders, such good times we did share. Tell me, was it real, though it seems like a dream, in the valley, by the mountains, by the sea, where it was always spring and our friends were all around? Kind universe, you were good to me. Then when I first started to plan for this, I decided to try and write out some vignettes, memories, and I'll just give you two of those, and then that's plenty. Let's see. I was 12 and the only American in what seemed like Hogwarts. Actually, I was a day student in an English Catholic boarding school for boys. There was an outdoor pool in the courtyard in the center of the school. We went swimming on scheduled days. One day we went out there and there was ice around the edge of the pool. We all jumped in. Instant headache. And then, less than a minute later, everything was fine and we were having fun. And I mentioned climbing Naiguatá. I went to high school in Caracas, Venezuela. Caracas is in a valley, and the mountains on one side separated us from the ocean. One summer, I joined a group of about 20 teenagers to walk up to the top of the Naiguatá mountain. It was an easy walk on a twisty dirt path and took about 4 hours. We left at midnight so that we would walk up while it was cool. When we got near the top, the adult leaders had us rest until everyone was there. There were some stragglers. We were in a clump of people keeping each other warm. Then we walked to the summit and watched the sun come up over the ocean. It was a glorious experience.
Thank you, Harry. Bob?
I must say, selecting what to read was harder than writing it in the first place. This first poem is a poem that I wrote for Jane right after we met. And then I was very fond of it. Later, when my son died, I rediscovered this poem and I reworked it for his memorial service because I felt like the two of them had a lot in common. While stumbling through the streets of living, with the bored, the dull, the gray, I chanced to meet a child of beauty, passing for the child of day. She walked quietly through the dark of daylight, restrained, controlled. She marked time in her camouflage of plodding, restless for the eventide. And with the long-awaited moment of the warming springtime sun, a birth, a butterfly, an enchanted nymph of joy, hope, and fun, darting through the life of this spring day, bringing laughter, easing pain, growing iridescent flowers, ending thunder, cold, and rain. This butterfly of hoping touched my life a day ago, leaving in my soul a rainbow, daffodils, a warming glow. I grew up in an area where most of the men either worked in the shipyard or in the Ford plant. And I watched my father and his companions get up and trundle off to do their job in these factories. And so this is self-explanatory. Bob Hill's father built a house in 7 years. His kids helped. He laid the bricks and hung the doors at night and drove the nails on Sunday afternoon. At 55, he had a conservative reserve, plenty of physical energy, and a pension at age 65, equal to the average of his best 5 years. Bob Hill's father sired 3 children and taught them to laugh. They swam in the bay and they sat in the alley and pondered the why of Tootsie Roll wrappers and wheat puppies. At 40, he sold the house, feared for the boys and dreamed for the girl, and looked forward to a pension at age 65, equal to the average of his best 5 years. Bob Hill's father caught lots of fish, cleaned them, and froze them in the Amana. On Saturday, he watched ball games on TV and laughed at Joe Garagiola and drank beer from a Skippy glass. The kids were gone. He slept a lot, dreaming of a pension at age 65, equal to the average of his best 5 years. Bob Hill's father was cheated. He had grown old while standing in line, and instead of being happy, he just got a check on the 6th or 7th of the month, and he was still waiting for whatever it is that is equal to the average of his best 5 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Steve. And by the way, Steve will be at the library on the 25th, is it? Mm-hmm. And Sunday with Friends.
Good morning. I'm going to read a passage from my first book, Navajo Wildlands, Sierra Club, 1967.
Steve?
Yes.
Can I get the
Have to take these off to read. According to Navajo legend, first man and first woman brought up with them from the lower worlds some earth from the 4 sacred mountains there. Some of this earth was mixed with white shell, and this became Sisnachini, the sacred mountain of the east. It was fastened to the earth by a bolt of lightning, and was decorated with white shell, lightning, white corn, black clouds, and violent rain with lightning. Eggs of the white dove were placed on the mountaintop. All was covered with a sheet of white dawn. Some of the earth was mixed with turquoise, and this became Sotzith, the sacred tongue mountain of the south. It was fastened to the earth by a flint knife, and was decorated with turquoise, dark mists, gentle rain, and all species of birds and animals. Eggs of the mountain bluebird were placed on the summit. Over all was put a covering of blue sky. Some of the earth was mixed with abalone shell, and this became Dokotzit, the sacred shining on top mountain of the west. This mountain was fastened to the earth by a sunbeam, and was decorated with mother of pearl, black clouds, violent rain with lightning, yellow corn, and every sort of wild animal. Eggs of the yellow warbler were placed on top of the peak. Over all was spread a blanket of yellow evening light. Some of the earth was mixed with jet, and this became Tibetan Sah, the great big mountain sheep peak of the north, in the La Plata Mountains of Colorado. It was fastened to the earth by a rainbow, and was decorated with jet, dark mist, violent rain with lightning, and all wild plants and animals. Eggs of the red-winged blackbird were placed on the mountaintop. Over all was laid darkness. And between the 4 mountains lay the land of the Navajos, Dineta. So in the form of these sacred mountains was our mother made for us. Blanca Peak is our mother. In accordance with it we live. In the midst of those 4 sacred mountains that were placed, there we live. With that, we who are the people are the heart of the world. From the lower worlds were brought up the prototypes of the mountains, the rivers, the animate beings, which are ultimately the gifts of the Sun Father. Now the earth, which had been stretched, became solid, and the rivers flowed. Trees grew along the banks of the rivers, and flowers grew at the foot of the stone mountains, with the rocks and the cliffs and other trees above them. The Mother Earth was very beautiful. Beaver brought cottonwoods to the rivers, and from a stone he knocked chips, which became river boulders. Otter brought willows, and rock wrens sprinkled rock dust here and there, and cliffs sprang into being. The sun was made by first man and first woman from a great turquoise disk, or some say a disk of turquoise-edged crystal, heated by the fire of Ashchejini, the black fire god. It has eyes, a nose, a mouth, and horns, and is bordered with red rain, lightning, and snakes, although some say that the radiating eagle and flicker feathers fringe its circumference. The moon is a great perfect white shell, or some say a portion of rock crystal or ice bordered with white shell, sheet lightning, and sacred waters. The sun and the moon are moved across the sky by the twin pollen boys. The stars are the people's offerings of turquoise and white stones. 2 black gods of fire put their spirits into the stars and into the sacred mountains. which therefore are living mountains. If people do not believe that the yea spirits are in these mountains and keep them holy, sickness will come to the people. The gods and the spirits of the sacred mountains created man. He was made of all rains, springs, rivers, ponds, black clouds, and sky. His feet are made of earth, and his legs of lightning. White shell form his knees, and his body is white and yellow corn. His flesh is daybreak, his hair darkness. His eyes are of the sun. White corn forms his teeth, black corn his eyebrows, and red coral beads his nose. His tears are of rain, his tongue of straight lightning, and his voice of thunder. His heart is obsidian. The little whirlwind keeps his nerves in motion, and his movement is the air. The name of this new kind of being was created from everything. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Mike?
I don't write poems very often, and the last time was about 10 years ago. I had a lot of stressful stuff going on in life, and that kind of generated some poems, I guess. So husbandry. The tree was already dying when we bought the house, although somehow we failed to notice. Each year there is less life in it. The vital sap flows through fewer limbs, but it will not die, and I will not kill it. Once again, I carefully cut away what has withered and died. I tend and nurture the life that remains, hoping, always hoping, that it may yet bear a few more sweet fruits before it dies. I was in a very bad relationship that needed to end. See if I can get through this one. Predation. When did the fear show in her eyes? At what moment did she know she would be culled from the herd, pulled down, torn apart, devoured? Did she suspect that she had grown too old, too weak to escape this time? When she saw it happen to others, did she wonder if she would be next? Or was she taken by surprise, completely unprepared, when the doctor spoke the words? My mom was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer about that time. And this one's a little less personal, just interesting. At the shore. Many times you have approached that turbulent sea in awe of its power. You wade in waist deep, willing to risk only that much of yourself. You shudder with excitement as the waves wash over you. Then quickly you retreat to dry land. You will not let yourself be drawn away from shore, tossed and tumbled in that powerful sea, pulled down into its mysterious depths. Until you are willing to drown in that sea, you cannot discover that you have always had gills. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. And now Donna is going to share some passages with her book that she wrote from her experience hiking the Appalachian Trail. I have read her book, and it is a very powerful statement, Donna.
Full disclosure, I'm not a public speaker. I'm pretty nervous up here, so bear with me. In the summer of 2015, I hiked 1,023 miles from Springer Mountain in Georgia up through Damascus and ended in Harpers Ferry, West Virginia. And the summers of 2016 and 17, I continued my journey, and then this summer I plan to go back up to New Hampshire and complete about the 300 miles or so I have left. So I'll share with you some of my experiences. In the summer of 2014, I first thought about hiking the Appalachian Trail, the 2,190-mile path that extends from Springer Mountain, Georgia to Mount Katahdin, Maine. It is the longest hiking-only marked footpath in the world. Every year, some 2,500 people hike out of Springer Mountain with an ambitious idea and an earnest plan to trek the trail in one continuous through hike to the northern terminus of Mount Katahdin. For the successful ones, only about 20%. It will take 5 to 7 months to complete their epic journey. I strongly considered a through hike, but once I did the math, that possibility was quickly extinguished. I could not afford to take off work that long. I didn't have the cash saved up to pay the estimated $3,000 for day-to-day trail expenses. And I had no gear, so I had to factor that cost in. Consequently, I came up with an alternate plan to conquer the trail in sections, also known as lashes, which are long-ass section hikes. I would complete the southern half, Springer to Harpers Ferry, in 2015, and then tackle the northern half. It seemed doable. I would work 8 months, save money, cash in an old life insurance policy, and scrimp and save to purchase gear. In my mind, I circled my start date of June 8th, 2015, and spent my days either actively planning for my journey or obsessively thinking about it. June 13th, on top of Rocky Mountain in Georgia, at a small campsite with 7 other people. It will be noisy, but oh well. Hard hike today. The last mile was an 1,800-foot gain, pretty much straight up, no switchbacks. After about 100 yards into the climb, I met a woman coming down the trail. She was older, slim, fine gray blonde hair pulled back, with a serene-looking, wise face. I asked her, "Is the climb as bad as I think it's going to be?" She smiled and said, "It's a challenge, but you can do it." It was a challenge, but I kept a slow, steady pace, sweating, almost panting, as I made my way up, with her words running through my mind over and over. "You can do it. You can do it." Such a simple thing to say to me, but it meant so much. The phrase's simple positivity affirmed my will and helped me up that mountain. July 4th. My day started miserable, light drizzle all morning. I was disappointed because I was really looking forward to Max Patch. The bald summit is supposed to provide 360-degree unlimited views. In good weather, it appeared I would have no such views today. All morning into early afternoon, I slogged through the dim and dark, wet woods. As I was approaching the parking lot for Max Patch, I crossed a gravel road, looked ahead, and saw a large plastic Coke bottle resting in the crook of a tree branch. My first thought was, that's awful, littering like that. But when I looked closer, it was a full bottle, and wedged right beside it was a king-size Hershey chocolate bar. Oh my gosh, I ran over and reached up, and darn if the soda was still cold. Someone had also left a note. I grabbed it from the tree, stood by the road, and read it, and gulped the Coke and ripped into the candy bar. This random act of kindness and thoughtfulness began to settle in. I started to get emotional, tearing up. How could they know how much I needed this trail magic? A few cars passed by as I was standing there. I waved to everyone. The sweet note and the instant sugar rush from the streets lifted my mood. An SUV drove past me, then stopped. I saw the red backup lights, and I thought maybe they needed directions. And even though I knew I probably couldn't help them, I was excited about the opportunity to talk to someone. The driver's side window rolled down. "Hi, what's your trail name?" The driver was a youngish man with a wide open smile. Hi, it's Gunshy, long story. Where'd you start? I told him Springer Mountain, and my goal was at least Harper's Ferry. He introduced himself and his wife, and then rolled the back window down, and I met his baby son and his other son, Edwin, who's about 6 or 7. We've been coming up here for about 5 years now on the 4th and placing trail magic for the hikers. I did some long-distance hiking in college and know how much it means to be surprised with food. Oh my gosh, you guys did that? Oh my, thank you so much. You don't know how much this means to me. They all laughed and smiled, and Matt took the empty bottle and candy bar wrapper after I finished. I told him I wanted to hang on to the note. I thanked them again, and we said goodbye. My day had just gotten a lot better, and it continued to. As I hiked over Max Patch, the cloudy, overcast skies did not keep all the picnicking families away. Every group I passed offered me food, and I took all that they offered. Whatever I couldn't eat on the spot, I stuffed into my pockets and the sides of my hip belt. Rice Krispies treats, blueberry muffins, a plum, grapes, cheese. I feasted on the food and good nature and charity of these families. July 23rd. I will be in Damascus, Virginia tomorrow. I have been out here 51 days and hiked 459 miles. I have lost about 12 pounds. I have not worn makeup or deodorant the whole time out here. I rarely look in a mirror. I have not driven a car, cooked inside, or shaved my legs or arms. Haven't watched CNN or HBO. Every night I have slept in a different place. I have pretty much worn the same peach-colored shirt, tan shorts, and orange sports bra the entire every hiking day. I am scratched, bruised, and weary. I am also very happy. Jumping ahead to August the 27th, tenting illegally at Cedar Cliffs. I just couldn't make it 3 more miles to the campsite. So glad I didn't. This place is awesome. Beautiful, clear weather, a most wondrous sunset. This is why I came out here, to experience the wonder and awe of being present and one with nature. So lovely. I'm not supposed to be here. There are no camping signs posted, but there's so many stealth campsites are here and there, old fire rings, cleared out spots, old rope tangled in trees from bear bags. I must have taken 20 pictures of the sunset. It's so beautiful. This is the next morning on August the 28th. This morning I didn't want to leave the beautiful vista up on Cedar Cliffs. I took my time packing up. Sometime around 9:30, a man hiked past me. He popped up south of me and said, "Darn, I heard some rustling. I thought maybe I was going to see my first bear." No, just me. He congratulated me on finding this most awesome campsite and hiked on. So I go back to my packing up routine, and then before I head out, I remember that the strong cell signal up here, it would be a good time to share my stellar sunset photos on Facebook. Head down, concentrating on the screen, I hear some rustling, light shuffling, branches bending. I look up, and no more than 3 feet away from me is a huge black bear. If I reached out my arm, I could touch him. My first reaction was awe and surprise. I was not afraid. I probably should have been, but I wasn't, startled and amazed. He acted just the opposite. I swear the look on his face was one of disdain or impatience, like, "What are you still doing here? Don't you know this is my favorite breakfast spot?" He is stripping berries off bushes very methodically, in no hurry at all, using his huge, sharp-toothed mouth. I backed up to give him space. Then I remembered I had my phone in my hand, so I lifted it up to take some pictures. Inside, I might not have felt fear, but my body was reacting because it was all I could do to keep my hand from shaking as I took the photos. I thought my sunset pictures were going to be popular, but the bear ones were a sensation. I got over 170 likes and 80 comments from my Facebook friends. And I'll finish up with my last hiking day. It was September 14th. Yesterday I said goodbye to my buddies and hiked the 20 miles into town. Fatigue set in about mile 16, and I started to look for a campsite. Then I remembered passing up the last water source before Harper's Ferry about 2 miles back. I had no water, so I had to continue to hike. And I'm glad I did. Walking over the bridge where the Shenandoah River converges with the Potomac, I knew I was done, that I was going to make Harper's Ferry my destination, my stopping point. It was a beautiful Sunday evening. There was not much traffic, so I had a peaceful walk over the large expansion bridge. The sun was making its magnificent descent. I looked down to the rushing river and waved to a man fishing off a rock along the shore. A calm feeling came over me. I was not sad or disappointed or even particularly tired. It just felt right. I hadn't planned on stopping here. I was going to hike a few more days, but sometimes you just know when the time is right. I felt that this was the right time to end my journey and go home. Thank you. I self-published this book mostly as a gift for my family and friends, and I promised I'd lend this copy to someone, but after she gives it back to me, I'm going to put it in our library, so if anybody would like to read it out, that would make me feel good. Thank you.
Thank you, Donna, and thank all of you for participating. Let's give everybody a big round of applause. Okay, Erin.
Are we doing more music or is that okay?
We are hoping to lead you in this. On the back of your programs are the words to a song. And as we suspected, the older members of the group will know this song, and the younger ones may never have heard it before.
That's not what you said to me last night. What you said last night was that you and I were probably the oldest people in the church, and everybody else would not know it. And I said, speak for yourself.
It was sung by Rosemary Clooney. And we'll fight to find the note there, but you're supposed to sing with us, so we hope you will.
Yeah, this is not us.
Performance. Gonna take a sentimental journey, gonna set my heart at ease, gonna make a sentimental journey to renew old memories. Got my bag, I've got my reservation, spend each time I could afford, like a child in wild anticipation, long to hear that all aboard. 7, that's the time we leave at 7. I'll be waiting out for heaven, counting every mile of railroad track that takes me back. Never thought my heart would beat so yearning. Why did I decide to roam? Gotta take a sentimental journey, sentimental journey home, sentimental journey home.
Okay, closing words. So, give thanks for the inspiration from muses and inner guides. Give thanks for the voices of friends and enemies. Give thanks for the love found in family, chosen and inherited. Give thanks for the unexpected trail magic and the chance to give back. Give thanks for the present moment, for it's all we truly have. Coffee and conversation.